motivation is always fleeting, right? So that's why I have the conversation. I find out who they are, where they are, and then how we continue to build with them towards that goal. If you draw a tag that you have waited your whole life for and you wait till August to train for it, you're going to be so sad.
You are listening to the Run the Rack Outdoors podcast, where we take an all-in, leave no doubt approach to all things adventure hunting. From the big woods to the high country. How about that? Let's learn together as we discuss with our expert guests on what it takes to be successful in the backcountry. I'm your host, Weston Homa. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Run the Rack Outdoors podcast. This week I got on Kelsey Endresen from Momentum Fitness Coaching. So it was really awesome to connect with Kelsie. She has a ton of experience in personal training. So if you're looking to get in better shape, prepare for a Western hunt, dial in your nutrition, all this stuff, Kelsie is a great coach for all those things. So, of course, this time of year, people want to get in better shape. I was happy to get Kelsie on to dive into all those things. We talk about training, nutrition, all the specifics, where to start, how to stay motivated, and what you can do if you got a tag lined up this fall that's maybe in the mountains and maybe you're from out of state or you got to lose a few pounds, and what you can do to be your best self for those hunts. So awesome connecting with Kelsie. She's a hunter herself, so she's out of Colorado. And if you're interested in learning more about her coaching business or work with her, you can follow her on Instagram, reach out via DM, and connect with her and go from there. So I think Kelsey's a great resource. I like sharing what I know with people that send me messages and stuff, but if you really want that one-on-one structured plan with your training and nutrition, give Kelsie a shout. So really awesome episode here. Hope you guys like it. All right, other things I got going on here real quick. So I got the online store up and running. So runtherackoutdoors.com. I've had this blog website already, so you can go check that out, but I now have a store with my merch on there too. So if you guys want to support the podcast is growing every single week. Really just awesome to see. And I'm going to keep working harder to try to make it better, give out more content, all this stuff. So if you guys want to help support, I got a couple different hats on there. I got a gray Run the Rack hat with a leather patch and a camo one. Great for training, and a couple beanies on there as well. So I've been wearing the gray Run the Rack beanie on my track workouts during my long runs, and then I got a green Run the Rack beanie on there as well. It's gonna be perfect for hunting season. So if you guys are interested, go to my website. You can order one, free shipping. So totally free shipping. Beanies are $25, hats are $30, and I'll get you one sent out ASAP. So really appreciate it if you guys want to help support what I'm doing here. Again, it's growing. It's awesome to see. I love connecting with more and more people, and it's just been awesome. So go check out the online store. Again, that's runtherackoutdoors.com. It's all linked in my bios on my Instagram page and YouTube channel and all that stuff. Speaking of YouTube channel, so my Colorado High Country Archery Buck is on there. First High Country Archery Buck with a bow. I was so stoked to get it done. It's a hunt film called Patience. And I was up in the cliffs, running around 13,000 feet, and arrowed this buck. It was an amazing week, and the film is up there if you want to go watch it. I got a lot of good digiscoping footage on there, too, of a bunch of deer and elk, and I think it was really good how it all came together. It was an awesome experience, and that is live on my YouTube channel, and I'm currently working on editing a shot then a buck here once I moved to Idaho here in now what is my new home state here in Idaho. So working on that hunt film as well. That'll be up. And everything else, I don't know. Just training really hard, doing the thing, trying to crush the 9 to 5. I got a 50K here in 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks when this drops. Really trying to podium finish. That's the goal. So it's a 50K outside of Boise here. It's going to draw a really good crowd, and putting in the big runs, man. Like, I got one more big, long training run before I taper off a little bit. So 22 miles in the foothills today. That's the plan. And then that'll cap off about an 80-mile or so week. And then, like I said, I'm going to taper down a little bit for the race, show up, and just try to have my best day. With all that, though, day 10 currently of 75 hard. So that's all going good. and just really just love the grind. I just feel like I'm in it right now. And this is the time of year, guys. Like, if you want to punch your tags, you want to find consistent success, you want to have it all come together in the fall, the winter, right now, this is it. Get the training in, shoot the bow, stay in shape. If you got to lose a few pounds, this is when you want to do it. So application season's coming up. It's all happening now. So let's win every single day. Take it one day at a time. Prepare now. Make the hunt easier than it needs to be. You'll thank your future self will thank you. So I think that's it from my end. Hope you guys enjoy this episode with Kelsey. Let's leave no doubt. Let's work as hard as we can, and let's run the rack. All right, everybody. See ya. Go Hunt has a single purpose: make it easier for hunters to get into the field. Hunting tags are only getting harder to obtain, and Go Hunt is a research platform helping navigate the ins and outs of drawing tags and researching hunts across the West. I've had a Go Hunt membership for years now, and I'm a big fan of the articles written on there by Brady and Trail. The content is next level stuff that has helped me a ton. From animal behavior to archery, they are sharing all the nuggets. I also love the hunt films on YouTube. They are extremely inspirational, and they'll make you want to get out in the mountains ASAP. Check out the Go Hunt Gear Shop, where they have everything you need for this coming hunting season. Use the code RACK, that's R-A-C-K, for 10% off eligible items in the shop. And you can use the code RACK for $50 in-shop credit when you join as an insider. So sign up for a membership and immediately get $50 back toward hunting gear. Check it out. You won't regret it. And I've said this before on podcasts, like, I already know it's going to be a good episode when I basically have a podcast before the podcast, because we just started talking training and nutrition for a good 10 minutes. And I was just like, I got to start hitting record here, because this is stuff that I'm passionate about. I'm excited to get you on, and I'll let you obviously give a little intro, but I think for this will drop in the new year. It's a new year. Everybody wants to get fit. We got application season coming up. People are thinking about their hunts this year, and we're going to talk all training, nutrition, all the things. So Kelsey, how you doing? I'm excited to have you on.
Oh, I'm great. I'm so excited to do this with you. Very excited.
Awesome. Do you want to give a little bit of an intro before we get into it? Your little bit of background in fitness and things like that.
Sure. So I've been a personal trainer in the personal training space, if you will, for 5-6 years now, primarily online, which is interesting, but it totally opens up your world, right? Thanks, internet, social media. But I have started kind of my own gig called Momentum Fitness Coaching, and that's exactly what I want it to be. So I want to be able to continue what I know and what I have learned over the years and what I love, and that's helping people achieve their goals. So no matter what their goal may be or where they are right now, right? My goal is to meet someone where they are, hear what their goal is, and then to make a plan to get them there so they can be successful in the long run, not short term, in the long run. So
I got it. Yeah, because it's that's something I found too. It's very popular, the transformation challenges. They're fun to post and all these things, but lifestyle changes.
Yes. And I don't feel like that's something that's taught, right? I feel like the industry as a whole, if you want to lose weight, you are told to run more and eat less. And so we all get sucked into salad and cardio, and then we can't figure out why that stops working, why we don't look the way that somebody else does, why we're sad, why we're tired, right? We do the things and it works for a little while, and then we hit that wall, and then you just fall off the wagon, and then you regress. So my goal is I've learned the hard way as well, right? I think we've all kind of gone through that. And through learning the hard way and educating myself and getting this experience, I want to be able to reach back and take your hand and say, follow me. I've done this. I've been there. We can get you back on track and into a long-term situation, not the yo-yo stuff.
No. And where are you from? And you hunt as well, correct?
I do, yes. Yeah. Big fan. I am from Colorado. I'm kind of in that tri-state area. kind of where Colorado, Nebraska, and Wyoming all meet out on the
Okay.
plains.
Gotcha. So what's your favorite thing to chase in the fall?
I don't know that I have a favorite. I love taking my kiddos out with me, and usually the easiest thing to take kiddos out along with is antelope.
Okay.
Um, I have kind of a vendetta with deer. It's been a while since I was successful with deer. Last two falls ago, I got my first elk, so I've got that itch.
Awesome.
I don't think there's a I don't think there's a favorite. It's more so like what can I get in on this year? And then you just put like full effort towards it.
Gotcha. I love it. And then as far as your own personal fitness background, I didn't ask you this before or anything, but were you an athlete at one point? Were you what was your own fitness journey kind of look like?
Yeah, for sure. So I have been an athlete. Like all growing up, I was an athlete. I started college my first 2 years as a scholarship athlete. I played basketball. And then that was at a JUCO. So I graduated, I got my associates. I went on to a university and I walked on to the track team there. So that's kind of when I really got thrown into Olympic style lifting and different styles of plyometrics and conditioning that was outside of just really strictly cardio that you typically get with like basketball, if you will, especially from a smaller school. So, my degree is in health and exercise science with a concentration in sports medicine. And then I also went on and I graduated with honors from the Academy of Natural Therapy. You know, you kind of live and learn, and I tend to learn the hard way. So, I have found different ways to continue my education that is more holistic. So, not just one method, right? Sometimes when you get stuck in a certain area, what seems to work for one person won't work for the other person. So, my background is athletics. My background is body work. My background is also School of Hard Knocks
Yep.
and working with thousands of people over the last 5, 6 years. And then you get these little tidbits, and everyone's so unique that the experience I've gotten has kind of run the gamut, if you will.
Yeah. And that's got to be so interesting too because I've always had personal passion for well growing up always looking up to athletes and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And then really wanted to tack on muscle into high school and college. I kind of like to follow this was like way back in YouTube, kind of like the men's bodybuilding physique guys like
Yeah.
that's kind of like was because that's all I trained for a long time was just hypertrophy because that's kind of like what I wanted. And then we talked a little bit before I hit record lately, well, I guess the last 4 or 5 years, my mind has completely shifted more to like a performance focused versus
Mm-hmm.
gym and aesthetics focus. I mean, I still like to do bicep curls every now and then, like they're fun, but I think it's really interesting when you really start to cater your training and nutrition to a certain craft or a certain, athletic pursuit and performance, start tracking the progress and things like that. It's been a lot more exciting than just tacking on muscle and looking in the mirror where and if people are maybe listening to the first time, I was for me personally, not so much a runner. I was about 20 pounds heavier than I am now. About 5 years ago, really went down the endurance rabbit hole. Started running marathons, ultra marathons. I think I got 4 or 5 marathons under my belt, and I worked down from 337 to 248 was my last marathon. So that's a 6 25-minute mile, all because I wanted to get in better shape for hunting, but I just went down that rabbit hole. I kind of have like a little bit of an addictive personality, I guess. But a lot of that has been because I do have people ask me for advice a lot about building a cardiovascular system. A lot of it has been just paying attention to the training and fueling for that performance versus what I used to do when it was a little bit more aesthetics and hypertrophy style training. And I don't know where I was going with that, but it's exciting to see what your body can do. Is kind of my point when you really kind of focus. You cater all these things to a certain craft.
Yeah. And that's a really good example of like two almost extremes, right? And how you can train different muscle fibers to respond to what you're doing, but also eat in a way where you don't adapt, right? It's always kind of like this guessing game to begin with. And then once you can really get honed in on, okay, this is what I want to do, and this is how we're going to work towards it, and then you eat for that performance or you train for that performance, you really start to see and feel the difference for it. But there is a huge difference between someone who wants to strictly build muscle or cut body fat or I want to go run my first marathon, right? It's a completely different programming style. It's a completely different way of eating. And a lot of times, shameless plug for a coach, right? A lot of times when you go out on your own, you can kind of get started, but there's so much information. This industry is so saturated that it is so easy to change your mind and go a different direction. And then instead of sticking to the plan and staying the course, you get pulled in every different direction. And then you're kind of, you never get to see what you're capable of because you're too busy switching things up.
Right. And it's the thing of it too, training, performance, all these things. This is a little bit of a long-term game.
For sure.
And it's so easy after 4 days or a couple weeks or a couple days. Like you see something totally different when you're scrolling on Instagram about training and nutrition. You're just like, I'm doing something wrong. I got to change it up. And it's like, man, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of plans. We'll get more specific, but I feel like a lot of the times it's like, it's not that people were doing the wrong stuff. I mean, definitely people can make mistakes, and I've made mistakes in my own fitness journey, but sometimes you're just not doing it long enough.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is a whole nother element to this too. So
yeah, sometimes you're doing it long enough. Sometimes you're doing it too long.
Right.
Sometimes it's just again, the purpose of a coach is so I can look at the picture from the outside. It's really hard to see all the details when you're in the picture yourself. But if I can look at it from the outside and give you that external perspective, but also put all those little tidbits from my experience in, it really can clear some muddy water.
For sure. And I feel like we're hitting on a lot of good things, but we're a little broad right now. What I want to do is kind of like narrow the scope just to kind of make it more relatable for the listener, because right now, this time of year, so it's this is going to drop in the new year.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people want to, build better habits, get in shape, looking at their hunts coming up. And Idaho just had their non-resident tag go on sale, waiting on those results. Wyoming elk is going to be the end of January, so the application season's coming up. People are going to find out if they're going to go hunt their elk or hunt their deer, where they're going, and they want to hunt the mountains. I feel like if people need help, because Kelsey and I talked about this before we hit record, Kelsey gets a lot of phone calls in August, and I just implore people, do not be that person. Let's try to reach out to Kelsey now. Because there's a lot more, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a lot more we can do now versus, hey, I got this once in a lifetime tag in Alaska, and I got this, and I get so much to figure out, and I also got to lose 30 pounds. It's going to be tough. So yeah, that's kind of my thought there, and I want to maybe cater to that too. If somebody did reach out to you now and they do have that, tag come up in the fall, they're doing the right thing, they're reaching out to you early. What does that initial screening, setting goals phase look like?
Sure. So typically it starts with a phone call, right? Just tell me who you are and where you're at, maybe what your history with food is. Maybe you've been in a deficit for a really long time because you've had that skinny mindset, right? Everybody wants to be skinny yesterday, and so we have to build you back up. Or maybe you just came off the holidays and the holidays got away from you, right? I have to meet people where they are. So it starts with a conversation where I sit there and I play 20 questions with you, and I learn about who you are and what you're doing and where we're going together. And then we can make a better plan. And a plan is never this stagnant cookie cutter thing, right? My body is different than your body. My history with weights and training is different than yours. My knowledge of nutrition, the way that I eat, the way that we grew up eating, it's all different. Everyone's different. So once I kind of figure out where you're at and I get a feel of how comfortable you are, or maybe we can't step on the scale for a while, or maybe we can't track for a while, or maybe we can just start right into the deep end, right? If I have to teach someone to swim, then we teach to swim. If I can shove you into the deep end, then let's go into the deep end. But it starts with that conversation. It starts with figuring out where we're at and then where we're going, and then we start to create a plan. So we look long term, but we also look short term. Because as we start to go, maybe we need to make adjustments. Maybe we have to make modifications. Maybe your job changes, right? If you have a schedule change, then your routine changes. Maybe there's always a learning curve, right? So maybe you're new to nutrition and we have to figure out how to get those things in. We have to create stepping stones. So it's very individualized. And starting out, a lot of times I'll have folks who maybe New Year, New Me hits them, and that's where we're at. Or maybe they come to me in the spring and New Year, New Me hit them, but now we're 3-4 months in and we don't know what to do with anything anymore, right? So it's kind of that thought behind, like, motivation is always fleeting, right? You can't always count on that motivation. So that's why I have the conversation. I find out who they are, where they are, and then how we continue to build with them towards that goal. If you draw a tag that you have waited your whole life for, and you wait till August to train for it, you're going to be so sad. So sad.
There's just not much Kelsie can do for you at that point. But
You can pray.
Say, somebody is coming to you early, like, best case scenario. But let's just say this. So, they want it all. They want to lose a few pounds. But they also want to be in the best performance shape. And, again, it's that once in a lifetime tag. I mean, how do you go about breaking down, taking bites of that huge elephant of, like, okay, we want to tackle this, lose some weight, but also increase performance? How do you kind of navigate those waters?
That's a great question. So typically, if they want to lose weight, we have to see where they're at calorically, right? If they have a history of food that's kind of all over the place, but we know they've been in an excess, they've been gaining, or maybe they've been really sedentary, then we know that we're safe to go into a deficit. If they've been in a deficit for too long, then we build them up to maintenance. So first we figure out where they've been, where their relationship with food has been. Ideally, my folks will do a cut once a year. This isn't an up and down and up and down and up and down thing, right? Your body responds to what we tell it to do. So I like to tell people, you're not broken. You have not ruined everything. Your metabolism's not in the trash, right? None of those things, none of the fear-mongering things.
Yeah.
We just get to tell it what to do. So once we kind of figure out what their relationship with food has been, then ideally, let's say they've been in a surplus, or let's say they've been really sedentary. Then we can start by just getting consistent. We can start by just establishing a routine. And then if we lose weight, then we can lose weight for the first 3 to 4 months. And then we can build up to maintenance calories. And then we can increase calories even a little bit more as we increase more cardio, or as we change cardio. Whatever type of cardio you're doing, your body's actually going to use different energy systems to accomplish that task. So that's why, like, I'm sure you've heard of, like, zone 2 cardio. What's zone 2? What's zone 3? What's zone 4? It's very confusing. The treadmill doesn't really tell you, right? So each of those different things have a purpose. There's a time and a place for each of these tools. So again, if we have someone who's started off in an excess, then we can spend those first 3 or 4 months in a deficit, creating more of a routine, making sure we can maintain muscle mass, burn through any excess fat storage, and then we go into maintenance and we can change body composition. We can increase that food, that calorie budget a little bit more. And then we could either go up in calories or we can go up in performance. We can stretch that cardio a little bit more. Then once we get closer into the fall, we can also figure out how I can still meet my calorie goals, my protein goals, whatever my macro goal looks like in the backcountry. Because sometimes that in and of itself is a beast. How do I now bring this with me without refrigeration, right?
Right. And I want to definitely work to that. Like I want to hammer that before we totally finish the conversation later on, like fueling on the hunt for
Yes.
sure, because I know that might look a little different than what we're doing kind of throughout the year to prepare too. But I also wanted to ask you here at this point, what are some initial common bad habits you see with nutrition for people coming to you kind of in these beginning stages? What's a commonality where it's just like, hey, right off the bat, we need to address fill in the blank?
Probably top two, I would say, is skipping breakfast completely, or we skip breakfast and then we eat a really light lunch, and then you get to the end of the day and your self control is just out the window. That is very common. The other one that is hands down the worst thing that I run into is a lack of protein. So a lot of times my folks, if they don't have a background or a knowledge of food at all, we just start by trying to get a protein with each meal. So a lot of times the protein goal that we should be hitting seems a little burdensome to begin with. But top two, I would say, would be skipping meals and not getting enough protein.
Okay. And I want to kind of talk about both of those because I do hear that a lot. You know, people will say, well, I don't eat breakfast and like eat a late lunch. And like, obviously maybe these people are trying to lose weight and they can't, figure out why. But it's as simple, I think, as, and again, I don't know everybody's situation, but it sounds like that person is consuming a lot of calories late in the day and they're waking up not in any sort of, they don't need to be fueled because they're full from the night before.
Sure.
And I would think if you're doing some training in the morning and maybe I kind of want to ask you that too about training fasted. I have my opinion on that, but maybe that's what a lot of people are doing. And I just feel like that's a little bit of a spin cycle that, I don't know, what are your thoughts? Maybe not
Training
best.
fasted.
Yeah.
If you want to do cardio fasted, I'm fine. If you want to do
Okay.
any kind of weights, no.
Okay.
I personally, for any of my folks, I give them a protein and a carb goal before and a protein and carb goal after. So I'm sure everybody's kind of somewhat familiar or they've heard of the anabolic window. It does exist. What I think is more important is that you're getting the right amount of protein throughout the day. So when you work out, that is what you are breaking down and that is what you are depleting is your proteins, which are in your muscles, and your carbohydrates, which is what's stored, right? That's what you're using as storage. Your carbohydrates go into glucose, that goes into glycogen, that gets stored in the muscle. So you're able to wake up and go in the morning and go train, maybe not with any food because you have that storage, but you're going to burn through it. And the same with the protein. You're going to burn through what you have available. So before you go into training, if you can saturate your resources, then you can use more, not only in the workout, but also as a recovery.
Yeah. Okay. And it makes sense. We were discussing even before, I'm just such a huge fan anymore with my endurance training of a little bit of a higher carbohydrate macro than I'm used
Mm-hmm.
to,
Mm-hmm.
because for me, and that's kind of been my thing. We talked about this before I hit record. Back when I was in high school, I want to start lifting weights, gaining muscle, watched a YouTube video. Guy talked about macros, protein goal. Here's kind of how you weigh it out. It kind of just made sense to me. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm Mr. Olympia, but um, it, I always felt like I did have some sort of control with my goals, if that's what I want to do. And if I ever got off track, it was just because I lost discipline, and that's all that there was to it. But for such a long time, though, I looked at nutrition as, lower carb, probably calorie deficit, because I'm doing this for more aesthetics, to lean out. And lately been training for, or fueling for, more performance based with endurance running. And it's been crazy because when I started tracking for some of these big training blocks, it felt so weird having such high number of carbohydrates in my MyFitnessPal app, and felt like, it's almost bad. But I had a direct correlation with how I felt on some of these runs, and I tried it because there's even like the few and far between endurance runners in the ultra world too. I don't know if you're familiar as much, but like they are like fat adaptive, and
Mm-hmm.
like they can do this on, like, do these big endurance
Mm-hmm.
feats on very low carb. It's so, though, like the one in a million. 99% of endurance athletes are training like with a higher carbohydrate macro. So I tried it for like a couple weeks, low carb, and I just felt horrible. Like I
Yeah.
felt like, and I've had a buddy say this to me once because he was kind of eating like that too when I started talking to him about his diet. And he said, and it's exactly how I felt. He'd go on his runs or some sort of whatever high intensity workout he was doing. He just felt like he had a parachute pulling him back. And I was like, that's how I felt. And since then, I've just been such more of a fan of eat the carbohydrates, it's fuel. And I am a fan of, sometimes I'll do a fasted run, but it's kind of just like, I don't like it, but I'll just do it to maybe like build my mental, is what I'm telling myself. But I just really like being fueled with carbohydrates before my exercises. But again, that's just me.
Yeah. Before I talk about carbs, that's a good point to touch on too. Fasted cardio can mean like you get up and you walk for 30 minutes. I'm not saying do a fasted marathon.
No, and I was
Right?
no, no. But even like my zone 2, 5 miles,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
again, I'm not saying, I know that's, for me, that's not too extreme anymore, but it would be so hard. But I would feel such a significant difference when I'm topped off a little bit on my carbohydrate intake. So,
Yes.
mhm.
Yeah. So your carbs, like I said, any kind of carb you eat turns into glucose. The difference between a simple carbohydrate or a complex carbohydrate is how that glucose is broken down. So how you're able to use it, that's why, like if we look at a simple carb like a cupcake, right? If you go to any little kid birthday party, you're going to see this huge spike and then you're going to see a crash, right? Kids are such a good example of how foods and like these basic fundamentals affect us. So your simple carbs get broken down into monosaccharides, which means every single glucose is individualized. So you get this big burst. That's why you'll see like bodybuilders, if they're in the middle of a meet or really intense training, they'll take gummy bears or they'll eat a Rice
Yep,
Krispie treat or something, right? Because they
yep.
need a little bit more oomph in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Your complex carbs are polysaccharides, which means it's a chain. So that means it's broken down over time. So it's controlled chaos. I don't think anybody, I know that the noise of the industry, it kind of changes, right? Like a couple years ago, it was everybody was all for like the Atkins diet, and now it's more the low carb and eggs were going to kill all of us a while ago, and all these
Yeah.
things. So there's always noise and there's always confusion, but I don't think anybody can argue that fruits and vegetables are bad for you, and those are primarily carbohydrates. So once you start to look at healthy versions of these things, right? Carbs, a lot of times we just default down into these simple man-made carbs. And that's not necessarily what we're looking for to get your primary amount of carbohydrates from. I'm sure when you go out for a long run, you're not like, I'm going to take this loaf of bread with me, right?
No, yeah.
So
No.
once you kind of start to learn what these macros are and how they make you feel, then we can really kind of tailor and hone in. So, like in your case, where you do start to experiment, right? This is my goal. I want to run this marathon or this ultra marathon. And I tried it low carb. I'm going to try it maybe with different carbs. And I know that's scary, but now I can pay attention to biofeedback. And that's again, what we're looking for is long-term feedback. I don't want to like do a really quick cut and we're going to go really low on carbs and we're going to introduce diuretics, and that's very temporary. My goal for people is always long term, because losing weight is hard enough, building muscle is hard enough, running a race is hard enough. You don't want to have to start over.
Hey everybody, real quick, if you're listening to this episode on Spotify, please go ahead to the top of the page and leave a star rating. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, you can leave a star rating and a review if you'd like. If you really like this episode, please share it with a friend, throw it up on your Instagram story, share it that way. Any sort of share or review really helps grow the show. Really appreciate it. All right, we'll get back to it.
And it's kind of hard too when you do want to start paying attention to how different foods make you feel and all these things. It's hard to do it like just for a given day, because there's always other factors too, like sleep, or I feel like I was just thinking of a guy at the top of my head, like, had a couple beers the night before and then saying he doesn't feel good today in his workout, and he's saying it's because you know like a supplement or something. It was like, no, because you're still drinking like that. You know what I mean? Like there's always these other factors too. And
Always.
yeah. So other than that though, you mentioned protein. So a lot of people aren't getting protein, enough protein per day. So I wanted to ask your opinion, because I feel like see a little bit back and forth online about how much recommended grams per day, and maybe some example meals throughout the day of like a breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack that is incorporating all this protein per day. Because again, for me, kind of saw that early on, and then like for me, even if I have times throughout the year where I'm like not super disciplined, like I'll allow myself some, I don't even want to call them cheat meals, just because for me it's like I don't, I try to have a healthy relationship with food. Like it's not going to kill me to have something here or there, especially with try to train a lot.
Yeah.
But like at my minimum standard though, like even if I know I'm having like a big dinner or like some desserts at night or something with family, like my minimum standard, like no matter what, is hit my body weight in grams of protein per day. And like I feel like that's just something I can always just hold. So I feel like I asked you a question, now I'm rambling, but protein grams per day, what is your recommendation?
So, again, just like everything else, I apologize. The answer is it depends.
Okay.
So, you have a large calorie budget because you are active, right? Yeah. So, if I tell you to go hit, I don't know, 150 grams of protein in a day, you have the caloric budget to do so.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm sitting here thinking, because like part of me wanted to say, but I'll say it now because I can justify it a little bit more. I felt like I don't have a problem eating that much protein in a day. You just made me realize though, I ran 75 miles last week. So I averaged.
You have a budget.
I eat so, and I'm always kind of like loosely tracking because I've just done it a lot, and I can even do it in my head. On a given day, I eat, and I am not a large. So we connected with our good friend Mo. I know you're listening. Shout out Mo Leone. Trains really hard, but he is huge in a good way. Like I don't know how big, 6'3", like just absolute stud. So he eats a lot. Again, my point though, I don't have Mo's frame. I'm about 5'5", 150 pounds right now. I still eat 3,000 calories a day. with all my running. And then when I do a longer run of about 20 miles, I've been doing about 20-mile run every Saturday, 20 to 22, and I'm about 4,000 to 4,500 calories. And that sounds insane.
It does.
Yeah. And
it sounds scary.
I know. And I'm not, again, that would even be a lot for, okay, like, yeah, I'm a little short. Even like the average size male, the guy that's like 5'10", 180 or whatever, that would even be a lot. But that is like in my training right now where I'm at. So, but that just, I'm glad you brought that up because that made me even like check myself. Because again,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't have a problem doing that. Well, people don't have as big of, and that's how I like to look at it too. Caloric bank, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, putting money in the bank or taking money out or whatever.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
anyway, continue. Yeah.
So some of my folks don't want to do cardio, and that's totally fine, right? So if you come to me and your goal is to lose weight, I can create a deficit in two ways. I can take calories out, or I can introduce cardio, or I can do a little bit of both, right? So I guess three ways. Your cardio is really high, so your budget's higher because you are eating for performance. If you want to come to me and you want to lose weight, but do it in a minimal effort kind of way, then we can take just calories away. You don't have to go run a marathon to lose weight, right?
Probably shouldn't.
Well,
Yeah.
if you come to me and let's say we take calories away, but your protein goal is higher, then we have to figure out, okay, now we have to play a game of if I want you to hit 180 grams of protein, but your calorie budget is 1,800, that's hard.
Yeah, that's hard to do.
That's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then we need to think about, can I do this in a way that's sustainable? So when it comes to, I kind of overlook this. You kind of ask me how much protein per pound or per body weight, right?
Yes.
So if your goal is to lose weight and you come to me and you weigh 300 pounds, right? Having someone who has never really had a good relationship with food, or they're just learning really how to fuel or what macros are, if I tell them, go eat 300 grams of protein, I am setting them up to fail. So what I do in that instance is we will look at what's your goal weight, right? So if it's somebody who's 6'3" or 6'4", maybe their goal weight is closer to like 225.
Mm-hmm.
If it's somebody who's like 5'8", their goal weight's going to be a lot lower. So we can focus more on a protein goal based around what their goal weight is, more so than go out and hit 300 grams of protein straight out of the gates, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of dependent. It also needs to ebb and flow based off of where your current weight is, how you're doing hitting your goals, or maybe we need to take a little bit of a diet break. I schedule diet breaks for my folks all the time for sanity, but also to help to reset your metabolism. So that's another one that I feel like the feedback I've gotten from folks can be kind of hesitant or scary at first is any kind of a diet break, because when you are losing weight, you don't want to stop what you're doing. So I really like to make sure that I do build a lot of trust with my folks. And again, something that I've learned the hard way myself, and I am reaching back and grabbing people and saying, come with me, I'll show you. So did that answer the protein and the calorie budget?
Yeah,
kind of?
for sure. For sure. I think, and that's the thing too, I've been doing it for a decent bit. I'm still learning, and I'm not saying I'm a coach or anything at this point, but if somebody were to try to, like, they hear what you're saying, calorie budget, want to eat enough protein, I feel like a lot of people might have a hard time getting started though, because they can't, like, they need examples, like they need to like scale that, you know what I mean? So can you give some examples of, and I know it depends on everybody's goals, but some just high protein focused meals throughout the day that maybe even if somebody's trying to lose a little bit of weight or performance or training for performance or things like that, in general, what those meals throughout the day would kind of look like, at least as far as protein goes.
Yeah, so typically what it looks like if you and I are working together, then I calculate your calories, we figure out what a protein goal is, and then I also give you a fiber goal. So then I want you to break that down into your meals. So typically what I have folks do is I have them shoot for 30 to 50 grams of protein with each meal, and then they have some form of fiber source with it. A complete meal is a protein, a carb, a fat, and a fiber. But if you're getting enough fiber in the day, that's getting you your plant-based things, which are your complex carbs and your healthy fats. So if we break down, let's say, breakfast or lunch, then we want to make sure we're getting 30 to 50 grams there. So maybe that's eggs, maybe that's egg whites, maybe that's when you have your protein shake. If you're not someone who's typically eating breakfast, it probably feels a little daunting at first. So let's make it quick and easy, right? So you get a protein shake and a banana. Or those are my people that work out first thing in the morning. And I'm like, hey, let's eat before you do. And that's a hard concept. Then let's make it really quick and easy so you don't feel like you have to sit down and eat a big meal. Same with lunch. If we can hit those protein goals, your protein is also what is going to get your metabolism firing the most. Of your three macronutrients, protein is what manipulates your metabolism the most. So as we are eating throughout the day, we're telling your metabolism what to do. If you are able to break that protein goal down and hit 30 to 50 grams with each meal, and you're eating meals throughout the day, then you're also telling your metabolism to burn. So then you can start waking up hungry, which should be a thing. That should be happening.
That's a good point you mentioned there. I kind of wanted to ask that too with these people that waking up, they're not eating breakfast, they don't feel like they're hungry. Should you be waking up hungry?
Yes. Especially if you're active. Especially if you're active. So again, your body's going to do what we tell it to do. So if you've gone months and months and months with skipping breakfast, or you skip maybe lunch through the day and you get sidetracked and you get busy and all these things, your nervous system has two branches. It has parasympathetic and has sympathetic, and it can be in one at a time. That means you can be in fight or flight, or you can be in rest and digest. That's why you can get busy throughout the day and work through lunch. So sometimes it's a matter of setting a timer and making habits, but your body will do what we tell it to. So if I want your metabolism to burn, then I'm going to treat it like a campfire. I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm going to start my fire, and then I'm going to throw things on it that it can burn. If you wake up and you start your campfire and then you don't eat again for 6, 7, 8 hours, you're stoking coals at the end of the day. It's all kind of a game. It's the same with training. If I hand you a 30-pound dumbbell, some things might be a challenge for a while, right? You could probably get through a month and be successful, but in 2 months, in 3 months, you're going to be bored and you're not going to see continued progress the way you want to, because your body is smart and it's going to adapt, because its goal is to keep you in what's called homeostasis, which is comfort, right? So it wants to do the bare minimum. So it's all kind of this strategic game that we have to play with all of these multifactorial things.
For sure. I think now going off that segue, talking about training, I feel like we got a good rationale around nutrition, at least some good starting points for some people. When it comes to, okay, so we got nutrition dialed in, we still got this hunt coming up. Now we want to start moving the body. We want good exercise routines. But what's interesting about a hunt is it's very endurance focused, but it's also very strength focused. So how do you go about tackling both of those on as far as getting ready for, we'll say, an elk hunt in Colorado?
Altitude. You just brought in altitude.
Yep.
So again, like, let's use my person that wants to lose a little bit of weight and then put muscle on and build that endurance. So the first chunk, we're going to focus on losing that weight, right? Let's get rid of the winter coat. It's not serving you anymore. So we're in that mode. that also means that we can do maybe a lower intensity cardio that's going to target fat loss and target oxidizing fat while we're figuring out what a lifting routine looks like, how to learn to eat. We're going to be in the trenches, right? Learning and figuring out, and then we're going to shift into maintenance. Maintenance, a lot of the times with my folks, I have seen the most powerful transformations in maintenance mode. Because when you're eating maintenance calories, that means your body gets to be a really efficient machine. And it doesn't have to worry about losing weight. It doesn't have to worry about putting weight on. It can build muscle and recover successfully. And then maybe we start to increase cardio. And then we can increase calories. Or maybe I like to do like a 5 and 2 schedule for my folks. So you said earlier, when you have a long run day, your calories go up. It's no different. We can play with that metabolism again and go low and slow for 5 days and then increase it up for 2 days. Low and slow, increase it up. And that can also be a really great way as we're adjusting training or increasing cardio or our weights are going up, right? Strength should always be in the back of our minds. We can get that little boost and we can fuel for performance, but not watch the scale just go up as we go.
They call that cycling, don't they? Cycling in calories.
Yeah, I think it's actually really nice. Like if I'm going to do a cut, that's my preferred way to do it because you can start off in a cut with all the good intentions and all the motivation, getting skinny and you're excited, and then you get a month in, you're like, I'm hungry and this sucks. So
Yeah.
it's nice because it kind of gives you that break too, where you can capitalize on the self-control and the motivation, but then you also get those couple days off.
Mm-hmm. And being in a deficit for a long period of time. So I don't know your thoughts on this, and I didn't mention I've done this before, but I've done the 75 hard program a couple times, and I actually think I'm going to do it with some new friends here again this year. When I've done that, I understand that some of those things I know that it's not easy to do, and I might not be doing those things all throughout the year, but for me it's helped with my discipline. And if people don't know 75 hard program, they can go kind of check it out. But part of it, to stick to a diet, and I've purposely put myself in a deficit throughout that time, lost weight, and so I've experienced like a long cut before. For me, losing 12 pounds is like challenging for me because I don't have a large frame. But I said if I was to do that again, though, it's really tough to be in that deficit for a long time, and probably cycling calories would be something I would do different, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just to kind of give my body a little bit of that break, and then again for that long period of time, yeah, you get hungry.
Yes.
Yeah.
I schedule diet breaks for people. I make it very clear we will be doing a diet break. And sometimes my folks have a hard time with it because they're like, no, we're making so much progress. And I'm like, you want to make more? We're going to take a diet break.
Mm-hmm. You're going to feel better. And that doesn't mean go eat like a fat ass,
Right.
Right.
Yes.
We don't do that either.
Yeah.
I'm sure that happens. They hear break and then it's like,
oh, by the way, I ate a cake. No.
That's not what I meant. Just cycling in.
Yes.
A little bit more, couple hundred calories, carbohydrates.
Yes.
Might feel
I also
pretty
think
good.
that helps coming out of it too, right? So when you've been in a deficit and you've been eating less and less calories, and then we're time to build back up, self-control can be hard. Self-control in those moments can be very hard. So if we can kind of learn how to increase calories in a controlled way, then when it's time to come out of the deficit, it's a little easier.
Because, and I will be transparent, it is weird. Like when I came out and then I was like, I love my new healthy breakfast, my new healthy lunch. I had a great, just bar day to day. But once I started eating a little bit something here and there, I mean, when you're in a deficit for that long, it's almost like a primal instinct. Like, yes, I've experienced it, and I've heard stories too of people on like a bodybuilding cut, like when they come off, like it's actually something you should be mindful of. So again, I think that's where that calorie cycling would definitely help.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it I just remember eating like a lot of food, and like you don't feel satiated, and
No.
it's yeah.
No. So if I can kind of get folks to learn, like, okay, maybe let's just change portion size, right? So let's say you have yogurt in the mornings. That's easy enough. Okay, but now we're going to come out of your deficit. So now I get to have yogurt with granola. I get to have yogurt
Perfect.
with a fruit. It's something with what your routine has already kind of been. So you don't go, I have 500 extra calories.
Yeah.
Let's go burn them over here, right?
You're right. Right.
So if you can just learn to adjust little portions throughout the day, you're still getting more food, but it helps with that self-control aspect.
For sure. Wanted to throw that back in, but I did want to get back to the training here. And so again, we're still in that phase. You know, you're implementing some of that cardio, and then as you go, implementing, you know, if that cardio changes, that output changes, increasing more calories. But as far as like some specific movements you have, like maybe we're getting a little bit closer to the hunt, really want to focus on certain movements in the gym, any favorite cardio exercises that really cater to, again, we'll just use this Colorado elk hunter.
Sure. So sometimes it's a matter of finding out what's enjoyable for you, right? So I have some folks who are like stair steppers calling my name. I'm like, oh, I love that for you, right? That's great. And then I
I don't love that for me, but I love that for you.
I love it for you.
Yeah.
You bet. I have some folks who like to just do a treadmill. I have some folks who like to do a ruck. Like, I'm going to go walk the neighborhood with my pack on. That's great. So let's find out what you enjoy and what you can make the time for, because that's half the battle. So as long as you have some form of an incline or a weight, right? It's just like if we were going to train for a sport. If you have a basketball game coming up this weekend, we're not playing baseball. So same thing, if we know we're going to be in the high country, if we know we're going up the mountain, if we know we've got to deal with altitude, if we know we've got to carry our food in and possibly an elk out, then let's break each of those things down and have one of those in our training. Like each of those aspects should be in our training. So there should be an incline. We should be watching your heart rate, right? We can pay attention and train and maximize your VO2 max. We can get in those different target zones. And we can also make sure that we vary the weight. Because if you start off with 20 pounds, I don't know, maybe that's your day pack, where it's just kind of the essentials, but you haven't put any more than 20 pounds on, or you haven't lifted. I have an alarming amount of folks who come to me and say, I didn't know you could train legs. Well, guess what? An 80-pound quarter on those thighs is gonna burn.
Oh, it's so hard. Yeah.
So as long as we have those aspects, if we can address each of those things as we go and build on it, then once we get to the fall, we've already checked those things off of our list. So the incline, making sure that we do train legs, anything like your stereotypical step ups, or you could do stairs, or you could ruck, or you could do single leg stuff. I'm a big fan of working things bilaterally. Obviously, there's a lot of power in, let's say, like a squat or a deadlift, right? Big full body compound movements. But one side of your body is naturally going to be stronger than the other. So if we can make sure that we have balance there too, you don't hop up the side of the mountain with both legs, you know, you go one leg at a time. So I think as long as your program has all of those aspects built into it as we build, it's also not something that if we start in January, we're not using the same program for the entire year. We run a program for 8 to 12 weeks and then we adjust. And then we adjust. So as we start to break down what that year looks like, we can change your programming to accommodate and get closer.
And I know you're saying, yeah, throughout the year might change a little bit, but if somebody was curious as far as volume in a given week for all these things, I feel like a lot of people go in the new year, they're like, I'm, going crazy every day, whatever, and then they kind of putter out. So, good recommendation as far as, I don't know how you'd like to measure minutes per week, hours per week, you know, however, what would that look like?
So let's say we're starting off just in like a fat loss phase. Then we can lift 3 to 4 times a day, or I'm sorry, a week. It doesn't have to be crazy. And then cardio I like to play with, so we can start with something like 90 minutes, and then we build to 120 minutes, then we build to 150 minutes. We can also incorporate the higher intensity stuff. So there's lots of things that we can play with, and there's lots of factors that come in that can be adjustable. So that also depends on someone's time, right? Um, so that's if we're in like a fat loss phase. Once we get into maintenance calories, then we can introduce another day of lifting because we have the ability to, and we also have the calories too. And then cardio can also change. Your heart rate's going to change as we go too, right? As your heart improves, your heart rate will also improve. My zone 2 cardio is going to look different than your zone 2 cardio because I'm not running ultras, right? So if I tell you to go into a zone 2 cardio, that might look like a good jog. If you're coming to me and you're starting at square one, that's awesome. Zone 2 for you, probably a walk. Let's go for a walk, right? So lots of different things to consider at an individualized basis. But if we kind of looked at it vague, I would say fat loss, you can do resistance training probably 3 to 4 times a week. You do need that resistance training piece. We do want to prioritize muscle still, but you're going to have lower calories and you're probably going to get tired. So we need to keep that in mind. Then once you get into maintenance calories, we can reintroduce another day of lifting, or maybe your training changes again. Even still, if we go a step further and we increase your calories because we're increasing your cardio, then we can introduce, that's like another tier that we can introduce.
Got it. And then you mentioned resistance training. And if people are listening to this, maybe this just popped into my head. Maybe an older generation. I just feel like I saw more and more things recently about how resistance training has been so good for longevity
Mm,
for older generations. Is that something you've heard too?
1,000%. Muscle is gold, truly gold. So muscle feeds into everything you do. It's going to feed into your metabolism because it's going to burn more calories just existing, right? Muscle is very energetically expensive, so you want it. That's also going to be how you're able to maintain things long term. We can get you to lose weight, right? We can get you to lose weight. Sure, let's do that. But it's going to be harder to maintain long term if you don't have that engine running hot. So if you just lose weight, that's going to be different than if you lose fat. So there's that to come into play. And then also, I'm sure you've seen things like it helps with like memory. I actually read a study not too long ago that linked your quad strength to memory as you age.
How about that?
I
Yeah.
think that was fascinating.
Yeah.
So, yes,
Um,
absolutely.
something else too, bone health,
Mm-hmm.
especially in what's the word?
Osteoporosis?
Osteoporosis. There it is. Especially with women as
Yes,
they age too. Isn't that
yes,
very common? And they're recommending
absolutely.
resistance training.
Absolutely. Yes. Especially for women because of course we all get the um everybody wants to be skinny, or you can't lift or you'll get bulky, or all of the nonsense, right? The noise seems to be louder for women, but we have so many different things. I have different hormonal cycles than you do every single month. You're pretty steady across the boards. We go like this every
Yeah.
month. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get that muscle mass on you, you do get to reap all of the benefits from it long term. Which is another interesting thing because I tell a lot of my folks your dream body probably weighs a little bit more than you think it does.
That's a good one-liner. I like that. Yeah. Big fan of resistance training. all the way around.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up here too, the last bit of this that I wanted to get into, because it sounds like, a lot of fitness, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, but a lot of it is just, habits, systems,
Mm.
consistency, showing up every day.
Mm-hmm.
And even with somebody, getting a good tag for this fall, but really if we take a step back, we're talking about just healthier lifestyle, which is
Yeah.
great. And that's why I'm a fan of, like, people knock, like, do you really need to train to hunt? It's like, well, you're missing the whole point. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, this is something we get fired up to do to keep us living a healthy lifestyle. At the end of the day, though, a lot of people just struggle with just staying disciplined, staying motivated. And what are your thoughts there when you're working with the client and the light at the end of the tunnel is just fading and hard time trusting the process, fire's going out? That's got to be part of it too, right? Like, there is
Oh, yeah.
still an element of discipline to all this.
Oh, yeah. That's why we start with getting those systems in place. We will always, always come back to your fundamentals. Life happens, right? Sometimes you're like, I had a death in the family and now this happened, or my stress is through the roof, or life happens. If you can get those fundamentals, if you can build the muscle, if you can drink the water, if you can hit your protein goals, then when you fall off the wagon doesn't keep going. You're driving it. Get back on it, So that's also why, shameless plug, I chose the word momentum for my business, because motivation is amazing, but it's fleeting. You can't bank on
Right.
it. Discipline, discipline, discipline. For someone who's just starting, you're like, that feels miles away. Like, I know I need discipline. I'm struggling. So I chose momentum because no matter where you're at in your journey, I've dealt with people who are starting from square one, and I've dealt with competitive professional athletes. What keeps every single person going long term is the ability to build that momentum. So if you can find that next stepping stone, do we need to revisit your goals? Are you not getting, maybe we need to do percentage work then, right? Maybe I need to send you in and tell you what to do. Maybe you need to, are you bored? Let's find something else. Maybe it's not the training, maybe it's something over here, right? Is there something that you need to challenge yourself in a different way? Body, mind, and soul is a thing. So if you've got the physical side down, maybe we need to look at a little something different, right? It's momentum that I like to focus on because that will continue to move the ball forward when motivation stops and when discipline seems really, really almost guilt trippy.
Do you find yourself working with clients and there's a lot of technical aspects to these things, like macros and training splits and all these things, but sometimes people just need, it turns into a little bit of a vent sesh, a little bit of
Oh,
you
yes.
know, yeah. And you just give them a little or I keep using the word motivation, but you know, what are some things, I don't know, you just find yourself telling some people to keep them going too?
So that's where like trust and rapport come in too. So, for example, I had a client that we were working together. He was burning through fat. We were going low and slow. We were doing the things, and then all of a sudden his scale jumped up 10 pounds. And he was like, I just don't understand. And he was ready to cut calories and throw cardio through the roof and just go crazy, right? As a lot of us would do, right? That would be anyone's knee-jerk reaction. And then once I got him talking, he was in the middle of buying a house. And I was like, oh, there you go. And he's like, no, it's not really stressing me out. Well, guess what? You're a first responder, so you're trained to handle stress. That does not mean that you are not experiencing it. It means that you're handling it. So mentally, you're like, okay, this is figure outable. But your body's like, holy smokes,
Yeah.
right? So your body, no matter what, your body experiences it. Your body will experience the emotion that you're going through. So sometimes with that trust, with that rapport, that conversation does turn into a little bit more than, Did you hit your weights today? Did you do your cardio? Because I want to see the big picture, right? So for him, once we got him into his new house, weight came right down. It was like up and then it came right back down.
That's crazy. But the more I've just again listened to podcasts, there's some guys I like. That stress
Mm-hmm.
is a real thing, and then because it's going to affect too how you recover and
Mm-hmm.
sleep, and all these things are so important.
Yeah. A lot of my clients too will just talk about like, how are you handling stress? You know, if you need to handle it in a different way, then maybe that's what we do. Maybe you're not ready for a cut because you're dealing with so much stress. So we're going to do the unfun thing and we're going to sit at maintenance calories because it is not fair to compound stress on stress on stress on stress and then be like, why am I not losing weight? Right? Well, it's because your body's just responding to stress. It doesn't know if it's work. It doesn't know if it's bills. It doesn't know if it's a relationship. It doesn't know if it's a tiger. It knows that it's stress. So it's going to respond. And you need a certain amount of stress in your day, right? And you need a certain amount of stress in your training. But taking calories away, not sleeping well, not drinking enough water, not spending that time on yourself just in little ways is a form of stress. So now you've just tipped the scale. Instead of progress, we're just surviving.
Right. And putting yourself in that cut, right? It's
Yeah.
only putting more stress on your body. So
Yes.
I think that's a good tip. One other thing I had noted down here too, just because when the topics of nutrition come up and fitness and everything, people like to ask about supplements,
Yeah.
and I don't, not against them. I feel like I got a couple things that work for me. I've definitely used more at times in my life than others, but what are your thoughts when people kind of bring up, what supplements do I need to be taking? Which just sounds like a loaded question.
Yeah. They're tools.
Hmm.
They're tools. So, like if I have someone who's going to run a marathon, then we're going to make sure they have electrolytes. We're going to make sure they have a sodium source. We're going to make sure they have trace minerals. That looks a little bit different than, are you lifting really heavy? Let's make sure that you have creatine on board, or let's make sure you have glutamine on board, or are you having a hard time sleeping? Let's introduce magnesium or magnesium complex. Again, it's totally dependent on the person. Some of my folks really love supplements. Some of my folks come, if you do a really, really restrictive diet, you're going to need to supplement. So there's a time and a place for those too, but they are meant to be tools, not dependent on. So a lot of my folks who have been in a deficit for ever and ever, they start to take all of the supplements because they feel like junk. And I'm like, well, we could fix that with food. I don't want you to be dependent on supplements.
Yeah. And do you find, I feel like you mentioned that before too. Do you find yourself getting people, like a lot of people that are under fueled consistently, like in a deficit?
Hands down. Hands
Really?
down. I would say more people come to me looking to lose weight, not eating enough than eating too much. Hands down.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is scary. If you
Right.
want to lose weight and you hire someone and I'm like, eat more, you're like, no.
Yeah. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, it is definitely something you have to see to believe. Mo can attest to that.
Right. Right. It just, yeah, it doesn't sound, but it's all about creating those healthy relationships with food, I'd imagine, and systems and all these things. But with the supplements though, for me, I just found that like I always had my whey protein after the gym. Like that was just my habit. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think I got to the point where I was like looking at all my caloric intake. I think this is actually when I was like wanting to be a little bit more carbohydrate focused, and then I was kind of like shifting that scale.
Yep.
And then I was like, well, I'm hitting enough protein per day in my eggs and egg whites in the morning, my non-fat like Greek yogurt, my chicken for lunch, and my, deer or elk for dinner.
Mhm.
So for me, I was like, I'm not saying I'm against this, but I don't think it's needed for me. I've been seeing enough, in my opinion, with creatine monohydrate where I'm like, you know what, anymore, to buy a tub of this and just take 5 grams per day. I feel like it's not going to hurt you. It
I'm
sounds
a
like
big
it's
fan of creatine.
okay. It sounds like it's been studied enough benefits. And I can remember years ago that all the different blends, and I think
Mhm.
they would just like purposely make it more expensive. But
Yes.
I just bought, yeah, I just bought like at Walmart, like 60 serving little tub for like
Mhm.
$19. And I'm like, even if this does move the needle like that much, 20 cents or 30 cents per day, like I would do that. And then I just take a multivitamin, not necessarily a cheap one, just like a
Mhm.
good complex one, fish oil. Just feel like I've seen a little bit where that helps with inflammation for me, just
Mhm.
always running. And I never eat fish. I don't like fish at all. Um, so I do that. And then again, it's the convenience. So yes, electrolytes for me with my running because I'm not going to carry around like a bag of salt, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how I look at supplements. It's just like you're paying for that convenience, and are they? And I try to like, is this really helping me? And if I can say yes, and then it's for the convenience, that's where I invest. But other than that, I don't think I do much else.
I do think that there are some incredibly beneficial supplements out there. I
Hmm.
also do think there's a lot of fluff, and marketing is a really powerful thing. Um, Collagen is a great example. Collagen for a long time was like marketed for hair, skin, and nails. I don't really care about your hair. I care about your joints, right? I care about the things that are holding together your meat sack.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's how I'd have a lot of men be like, well, I don't take collagen. It's for ladies. I'm like, if you have a body, you are made of collagen. So there's a
It's a
lot,
protein, isn't it?
it's an incomplete protein.
Okay.
So it is part of your fascial makeup. So if you took away all of your systems, all of them, skeletal, muscular, reproductive, digestive, if you took away all of your systems, 11 systems are gone, you could still see yourself because you have that much connective tissue. Connective tissue is made up of three things, and one of those things is collagen. That's the structural component to it. As we age, like as we're growing in adolescence, your body will create it because you're growing. Once you hit mid 20s, 30 and beyond, your body's no longer producing it. I do suggest a collagen for my folks over 30 because you start to see and feel the effects of aging. And part of that is because your body no longer makes collagen.
Hmm.
So it's a really great one. They've actually had studies where they trace collagen and it really does go to your connective tissue, which is really interesting.
Is there anything with a collagen supplement that people should look out for specifically, like if it has this or doesn't have this or something like that?
I think liquid collagen is silly. If it says collagen is like a lotion, for example, your body can't effectively absorb it. So just look for a really good, you're going to see collagen 1, 2, and 3. You're going to see hydrolyzed. You're going to see a lot of big words. Um, sometimes I have folks just send me a nutrition label. Let's look at it
There
together.
you
This is
go.
scary. Let's look at it. Let's look at it
Yep.
together. Same with like creatine. Like you said, you can get creatine pretty easily now. Creatine gummies, I think, are a waste of money. They've
I
shown
just saw an ad for that
in
recently, and
there.
I was like,
Yes.
what are we doing?
Yep, we're making it gummies.
Yeah.
Yay. I think a multi is really great. Like I said, magnesium complexes are really great. Sometimes for my people who are in really high stress moments, we look at a B complex. We look at an adrenal support. There's, they are tools. They are tools. And I think there are really fantastic supplements out there. I don't think you need to take every single one of them. So again, I'm going to meet you where you're at, and we're going to have a conversation, and then we're going to make a plan.
Sounds good. um, I think that's pretty much all I had from my end here. I really appreciate your time, Kelsey. I think this is a really good conversation. Great for people to start the new year and all that. We talked about nutrition, some training protocols to get you ready for the hunt, a little bit of mindset, which I think is just as valuable to all these things. And I liked one thing you said too that I wanted to reiterate. When I started asking about exercises, you mentioned like, what do you like? And I've found myself saying that to people too. Like, adherence is going to be your best friend. Like, what can you keep coming back to?
Yeah.
So I think it's important that people kind of find that thing they like. Like for me, it has been running. I do like to do some backpack training
Hmm.
and just like, really like get into like sometimes like I'll get that sandbag on my back and I'll put on like a hunting podcast. I would do this in Pennsylvania all the time, dreaming that I lived in a Western state. I live in Idaho now, but I would just hike those hills and just picture myself like on the hunt. And it would just like get me excited to go do that after work. So I think that's a great tip. And I wanted to reiterate that before we wrapped up. Like, find something that you can keep coming back to, because a good plan that's stuck to is always going to beat a perfect plan that is never followed through. Is that
100%.
correct? Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Yep. Don't go do what's popular. That's how you got into the mess that you're in. Let's
There you
find
go.
what makes you tick and let's feed into it.
Perfect. Love it. All right, Kelsey, where can people find you, your coaching, all the things?
Yeah, so if you pull me up on Instagram, it's Momentum Fitness Coaching, or my personal Instagram is Kelsey Endresen, and you can find that link in through there. So either one of them is great. And if you just send me a message, I'm right in the middle of creating an app. So if we sign up with
Awesome.
my client, then I'll onboard you onto the app, which is really awesome. And then if you just want to shoot messages, then, some people don't want an app. Some people want a spreadsheet. Some people just want to email back and forth. So I'm super flexible as far as whatever your programming wants to look like, or maybe you have your own. But yeah, that's where you can find me, is on Instagram, either under Kelsey Endresen or Momentum Fitness Coaching.
Perfect. Love it. Everybody listening, go check out Kelsey's stuff. Thanks again for hopping on. Really
Yes,
enjoyed this
thank
one.
you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we'll wrap up there. Everybody, thanks for listening, and we will catch you on the next one.
Hey, if you like that episode, please share it with a friend, share it on your story, and give the podcast a rating and a review on wherever you listen. For more of this type of content, you can head over to the YouTube channel and follow along on all the social platforms. Really appreciate it. See you on the mountain.